Hi, AfterBuzzers. You're tuning into the Outlander After Show, so stay tuned.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AfterBuzz TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the AfterBuzz TV show. I'm Adrian Snow. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Miss Adrian Snow, and this is my fellow host.
I'm Emily Harlan. You can follow me on Twitter at MLEBeth and on Instagram at OMG, it's MLE.
Yep, and today we'll be reviewing episode 6.
I know already. It's crazy.
My gosh, we're so far
flying
along.
by.
Best late schemes. So, first thoughts.
Well, first, I thought the episode was a little bit slower just compared to the other ones. Obviously, you know, the reintroduction of Captain Blackjack Randall was a big deal. So it's obviously hard to follow that. But I felt like this episode, there were a lot of pivotal moments for characters in it. You know, we saw the promise that Claire made to Jamie that we've been trying to figure out we knew what it was, but we've been trying to figure out exactly what he made her promise that we saw in the very first episode of this season. And we saw Murtagh figure out what's been going on. So I feel like there were a lot of like meaningful points in this episode. It was a lot of like laying down the lines and plotting and that kind of stuff, and didn't see the big action until the end of the episode. But altogether, I thought it was a good episode, and I thought it was an important episode that needed to happen at this stage, you know, in their lives. So
Yeah. No, I thought it was a good episode in terms of they kind of laid the groundwork for what's to come with like the witch hunt coming about, and then Murtagh finally finding out, that's a little hard to say, that Claire is from the future and considering her to be a witch. We finally do get to see that duel at the end, so that was intense, and looks like Captain Jack ain't making no babies no time soon.
I know. Yeah.
Good riddance. So yeah, it was slow, but there was some good stuff that happened, and I feel like they were just kind of laying down that groundwork for the episodes to come for the rest of the season.
Right, definitely.
So yeah, just to start off, I guess we should go ahead and talk about just one, I was really surprised to see that all the things that went down in the last episode didn't seem to affect their marriage as much as we originally anticipated.
I thought the same exact thing when they first showed them together in this episode. I thought it was just going to be the whole episode of them being very cold to each other, not talking, you know, kind of ignoring each other. But Jamie's rubbing her feet, and it looks like and that kind of threw me at first. I'm like, well, wait a second. Last episode we saw Jamie say, "Don't touch me," you know, and storm out, and now he's rubbing her feet. But then he did say something along the lines of like, you know, you could have chosen him or me, you know, meaning Frank or Jamie, and you chose me. So I think maybe that was his way of kind of coming to terms with the fact that, look, there's no competition here. Like, Claire stayed for you, you know, and maybe that's kind of how he got around it. But yeah, that was a little shocking to me too, to kind of see how there was no hesitation at all.
Yeah, he was rubbing her feet.
Yeah.
They got it on. Another pregnancy sex scene, which I was like, yeah, pregnant women.
Yeah.
So it seems like they were kind of, sorry, that's my Chewbacca text tone if you hear that strange sound in the background. It seemed like they were kind of moving forward with their plans in terms of setting up like how to go about sabotaging the Comte, and all was fine. So I was pleasantly surprised by that as well, that it wasn't some big ordeal that we have to overcome, or all of a sudden Annalise and
I think it's Louise. Are you talking about?
No. The ex-flame.
Oh, Annalise.
Annalise.
Yeah.
That she wasn't going to make a sudden reappearance. Like, I think we kind of predicted that she might come in between them. So it was nice to see that they weren't taking that route at this time. That might come up later.
Right.
But, so yeah, that was nice to see. It was nice to see him, even though it was hard to watch him, like, deny Murtagh at the beginning when he said, like, I'm not going to do the duel. I'm not going to tell you why. It was good to see him finally explain it, and to see Murtagh's response of just like slugging him in the face, being like, you should have trusted me, like 10 times sooner.
Yeah.
So
I know when I first saw that scene, when I kind of wanted, I know why they didn't go into detail of actually airing and us as fans hearing Jamie explain to Murtagh what's going on. But I kind of wanted that to see, because their relationship's so different than any other relationship in the, you know, series. So I kind of wanted to see how Jamie was going to relate to Murtagh, that, hey, my wife is from the future and she traveled back in time, and, you know, and I thought that Murtagh wasn't going to be so accepting of it. I thought he was going to kind of say, like when he punched Jamie and he said, if you really think your wife's a witch, you know, I thought he was going to say, you're crazy, like I can't believe this. But it makes sense that he believes Jamie, obviously, because he and Jamie have such a tight bond, and Murtagh has been on Jamie's side from the very beginning. Yeah. So that made sense, and I'm glad that he's finally in on it too, because you could see in the beginning of this episode, he was very resistant. Murtagh was very resistant to anything Jamie and especially Claire were doing, you know? And I thought, gosh, if this goes on much longer, he's going to really kind of drive a wedge in between all three of them, you know? So I was glad that they decided to get him in on everything. And especially as this plot kind of thickens and things get more intense, you know, as far as, like you said, them sabotaging Saint Germain, the fact that Murtagh is now involved and everyone's kind of playing these characters, and it's like, I was just waiting for that bandana to come off his face, you know, and for everybody to be found out. Now that everyone's so involved, I think it's important that Murtagh kind of knows what's going on, and more importantly, like what's at stake, you know, and why everyone needs to be on board. Yeah. So.
No, yeah, it's great to have him there. It was also scary to see him, you know, after they are successful with the wine bandits, the banditry or whatever. It's scary to see him like disappear for a month.
Yeah.
You know, so much can happen in that month, and so much has already happened.
I know.
In the day, less than day, 15 hours that he's been gone, you know. So how are they going to negotiate not having their right-hand man there? So I'm happy that he knows, but I'm also incredibly terrified that now that he does know that when he could be the most useful, he is not there. You know?
100%. And it's like Jamie and Claire are kind of the only ones that, you know, with the exception of Murtagh, that kind of like have each other's backs. And now that Murtagh's gone, you know, and it's just pretty much Jamie and Claire and Fergus. But what is Fergus, like 9 years old? So it's like, how much can he really help, you know? So yeah, that's really scary. And especially, I mean, flashing forward to seeing at the end of the episode how Jamie's now in jail, it's like, who's going to be able to bail him out? Who's going to come to his aid? You know, are we going to see Prince Charles or, you know, Duvernay, or like what's going to happen with that? But yeah, it's really scary that Jamie doesn't have that protector in this land that they don't really know a whole lot of people that well. You know, it's not like back in Scotland when they have a whole clan that can kind of come to his rescue and bail him out like they did previous times. It's like, it's just Jamie and Claire, and Claire's obviously bedridden. Yeah. So I don't know. That's I'm really scared for Jamie. And where is Murtagh going for a month and a half? He's
Portugal.
To sell the wine. Yeah, I know they're definitely going to miss him, and I think a lot's going to come up with his absence. Yeah. Absolutely.
I also had a curiosity just about what happened to Fergus at the end, because it doesn't seem like you know, Jamie breaking his promise to Claire was something that was easily done or something that wasn't unprompted. So the fact that Captain Jack had Fergus locked up in his room for who knows how long, whatever the maid might have told, that's obviously not the full story. Yeah. And the fact that we don't see Fergus again at the end of the episode, like even standing next to Jamie, you know, as he's dueling, makes me think that Captain Jack did something to Fergus. Yeah. That prompted Jamie to break his vow.
Absolutely. And I what I was thinking as I was watching the episode was that Captain Jack saw Fergus steal whatever he put in his pocket. It was like a perfume bottle, or I don't know what it was, put in his pocket. And in my mind, I thought that Captain Jack was going to say, okay, we're going to either, hang him or do something for stealing or whatever, unless, and Jamie kind of comes to his aid, unless, okay, Jamie, you duel with me. And that's why he dueled with Captain Jack to save Fergus in whatever capacity. But that frustrated me, and that note he left Claire, it's like you could have written another sentence in there.
I know, right?
He just
Anything.
he just said, I'm sorry I had to, or something, or
I'm sorry I must.
I must, whatever. But why not say had to save Fergus? Just put a few extra words, because in Claire's mind she's thinking Jamie betrayed her. She has no idea that there was really anything that Fergus was involved or Blackjack was involved at all. Her in her mind, Jamie just got fed up with it, decided to duel, and now she's thinking that Jamie betrayed her. Yeah. So it's like, I don't know. That could have all been solved with another sentence.
I know. Miscommunication. I was going to say misconnections, but this is not
too.
Craigslist. But yes, just those miscommunications that come up that completely destroy things, and maybe it was something where he couldn't really say anything more. He couldn't, really talk about the duel because it is illegal. So what if that letter got into the wrong hands or something like that? So I'm also curious as to how the authorities found out that they were dueling. So who let that slip?
Yeah. So I don't know. Somebody had to have said something, whether it's, I don't know, Saint Germain. Did he find out because he's got eyes everywhere? Or,
he does.
I don't know. That's an interesting thing that maybe we'll see next episode, because it doesn't look like, Jamie's back at home. It looks like he's still kind of
still in jail,
still holed up. So yeah, maybe we'll find that out. I don't know if it was Blackjack, because it looked like it was men who were dressed like Blackjack that came. So
no, it was the French. It was the French authority.
Okay. Yeah. So I don't know kind of who blew the whistle on that, but yeah, it's not going to be good when it all comes out. That's for sure.
Well, just to kind of allow me a split second to turn my phone off.
Yes.
What were your thoughts on the Comte, with that little face off that they had with him and Jamie before with the prince? So they're going forward with the...
Yeah. I think he's still, obviously he and Jamie don't agree with each other. They don't like each other. They're, obviously Jamie thinks that Saint Germain had all of this, kind of scheming behind trying to hurt Claire and all that kind of stuff. So, but it's interesting to see how Prince Charles is obviously has no, second thoughts on Jamie, that Jamie could be scheming him and is behind all this. Prince Charles is like very, very on board with Jamie, and very naive, but also, he backs him. He said, I would trust him with my life, which is huge. It's like,
so crazy. It's so naive. Like, why would you trust this man you've only known for maybe 6 months?
Right. He's obviously in too deep, and it seems like he's letting his kind of cause of trying to help his father, and at one point he says God, all this kind of stuff is kind of coming into play that's obviously blinding him to what the situation is. And I think Saint Germain is starting to catch on a little bit. I think he naturally blames or suspects Jamie just because of their history. But I think he's starting to kind of like catch on a little bit. And it surprised me as soon as he said, oh, our men have, an illness. And Jamie's like, is it contagious?
Yeah.
Like,
he's like immediately.
I know. And he kind of looks at him like, why would you ask that question? And it's like.
It's a fair question to ask, though.
It is. But I feel like Jamie obviously was behind all this. It's like, usually you want to try to kind of keep quiet so you don't like ask too many things to make it look like you're in on it. So yeah, but I definitely don't think it's the end of that. And somehow it's all going to come out. Either Saint Germain's going to find out that Jamie was behind all the wine bandit stuff, or
I think it's inevitable that they will find out. But I also think that it made me less suspicious of Saint Germain as somebody who poisoned Claire, and I don't know, for some reason in that moment I was like, I don't really think he's the guy who's been doing like the attack and the poison. Like, for some reason, and it made me doubt that he was responsible for that.
Yeah.
I mean, he could still be, but it just, the way he responded, it seems to be, I don't know, it seems to be like he played a bigger con than that, or if he was responsible for those things, why would he allow himself to get into business with Jamie?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And I think when he said, I think it was last episode when he said, I'm not interested in your personal affairs. So I'm starting to see that a little bit too. It seems like Saint Germain is more focused on money.
Exactly.
And his personal belongings and businesses and stuff like that, that it seems like he wouldn't be able to put all of that kind of energy that he's showing into all of this and put all this energy into trying to sabotage Claire.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm still not ready to take him off of the suspect list just because of what happened on episode 1, and how he's mentioned it before, like, I will not forget. So I think whether that means he's just keeping an eye on him and he'll never trust them, or if it means he's kind of dealing with something else and sabotaging a little bit more. I don't know. But yeah, I can't wait when they reveal his character, because his character is so mysterious to me. I think the most mysterious character of this season so far. So I'm really interested to see the extent at which he kind of has his hands in, and we still haven't figured out who was behind the attacks. Well, we know it was this aristocrat group, but like who was heading that? I mean, there's
disciple.
There's so many like kind of unsolved situations that have happened. So yeah.
But with that, there is the first scene at the beginning with Claire and the hangsman, or I can't think of like the proper term.
Oh yes, Monsieur Ferret.
Monsieur Ferret.
Yes.
And he kind of sets up something that I kind of don't want to deal with another witch hunt, but that was kind of implied that is something that's about to come about, especially if they hear about Claire's history being involved with the witch hunt before. What did you feel about them kind of setting that ground of Master Raymond?
It made me worried for Claire, because it seemed like Monsieur Ferret knew that Claire was somehow like involved, whether it was just speculation or if he really did know, like the things that he said to her and the way he said it. It seemed like he was kind of giving her a warning, like, hey, you better watch out, and it was almost kind of threatening. I thought like his vibe was, for me when I was watching it, his vibe felt kind of threatening towards Claire. So that made me kind of worried for her. But yeah, when she went to Master Raymond, I still think he suspects in some way that Claire is from a different time, because everything he says to her, like even today he said, we'll meet again in this life or another. Like every time he says something to her, it involves some sort of like future, from another time or something. Yeah. So I think he kind of has an idea, but yeah, I'm worried about what that means for Claire. And it's like with this series, there's always something going on. There's always some sort of somebody's out to get somebody. So it does not surprise me that there's going to be another witch hunt, and it's probably going to be a lot more intense than the last one was, I would assume. So yeah, that's going to be interesting when it all kind of blows up.
Yeah, I don't necessarily want to go through that again, but I am curious to see. I'm curious about Monsieur Ferret.
Yes.
In terms of how he's going to play into things, and I didn't necessarily see it as a threat so much as I saw it as kind of like a warning. Like this is something that's happening, and now she is kind of developing a reputation for being a witch. The La Dame Blanche and all that. So things are coming up where that seems to be the direction they're taking it. So I don't know if we need to do that again. We just did it last season, but hey, if The Flash can do like a similar storyline, I'm sure they can do it in Outlander. Yes. But I am curious to see like how that's going to end up playing into things, and if that's going to be something that is further used to keep them from attaining their goal. And with the whole setup of the promise of her going back to the stones, should anything happen to him, that makes me nervous as well, because now we know she does go back to the stones. Like, why does she go back to the stones? And I didn't know if you noticed, but did she look less pregnant in the first episode than she does now?
Yes, and that is what I was thinking. Was she right now? She looks very pregnant, pregnant, super pregnant. And in the first episode, she definitely did not look that pregnant at all. You know, so something, I don't know. with time travel, it's so hard to try to, you know, pick a line and say this is what's happening and this is the direction it's going in. But yeah, something's going on where I don't know if she's going back or they're playing with all of this. You know, does it look like she's going to lose the baby? You know, all this kind of stuff is kind of coming into play. So I don't know how that's going to make sense, but obviously it's going to somehow, and we're going to find out whenever she does eventually go back. But I think it's definitely not like this progression of time, you know, because no way is she this pregnant going back, you know, because she just looked completely different. So I don't know if it's you know, I don't know,
baby.
If she loses this one and they end up getting pregnant again, I don't know.
It kind of makes me assume that that's just because that at the end of the episode, that was a lot of blood.
It was a lot of blood.
It was a lot of blood. And I feel like maybe if it were 2016, you know, the chances would be a lot better for her of saving the baby. But being the 1700s, it just seems really unlikely that she's going to be able to save the baby. So it seems like they're setting it up where maybe while we originally assumed she'd be back by now in the future, maybe it's a whole nother year before she goes back, you know?
That's what I'm thinking. And I could see how they could set it up, you know, if she does happen, as awful as it would be, but if she does happen to lose this baby, I could see how they could set it up to her resenting Jamie. You know, because she blames him, and she said that multiple times in the last like 5 minutes of this episode, like he betrayed me, you know. So I could see her, you know, if she did lose the baby, her putting the blame, although Jamie obviously did this for Fergus or whatever, her kind of putting that blame back on Jamie, like, you know, you promised me you won it and you did, and now we lost the baby, kind of thing, you know. I don't know if that's the direction that it's going to go, but I can see just the way it's playing out. It seems like all this scheming that they're doing, you know, they're so invested in obviously ending this Jacobite rebellion and trying to save everyone. They're so invested in all this scheming and Saint Germain and Black Jack Randall and the Prince and all this kind of stuff that they're almost forgetting about their own relationship.
Yeah.
It seems like they're getting further away from their bond. Their bond is weakening, you know? So I could see how the writers would kind of run with that storyline and make it kind of go, you know, in a different direction. Because in some ways I feel like this season they're stronger, their relationship's stronger than it's been in the past, but in other ways it's a lot weaker.
Yeah.
So I could see the writers just keep kind of breaking that down.
Just breaking the relationship down? No.
I know, I don't want it to happen. Don't do it. I know they are soulmates, but I could see, I don't know, just with everything, just the direction it's going in and how many like issues they've had and problems they've had, and they're just, it seems like, I've always said that their relationship, they always kind of are equals and they come back together and they're on the same page. But I feel like this episode or this season, the past few episodes, I feel like they're just on different pages.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
There's something that because my computer's dead, so I had to I got the Starz package, and there was something that the writer said afterwards about how they are soulmates. So if the writers believe that they're soulmates, I think they would be less inclined to make it where any type of resentment would be long term. You know, especially if she is pregnant, even if it's a whole nother year, she does become pregnant again. It is not Frank's child. It is most likely Jamie's child, because it seems to be the only man she really loves.
Yeah.
And there was no type of resentment towards the baby, you know, if there anything had happened in between that time, to say that it wasn't Jamie's. So that kind of makes me think that they're not going to go that route. It might be 1 or 2 episodes of her being kind of angry with him or frustrated with him, but I think once they can get face to face, he can make it clear of like why he had to do what he did and what Captain Jack did to ignite that in him. Because I don't think it's easy for him to break a promise to Claire.
Right.
Even with his explanation of being like, it wasn't a life for a life. It's because I want to ensure your safety. Everything he does really is for her, you know, so, and for the sake of their child and their life together. So I hope they don't do it, but you know.
I hope so too. Yeah. And it seems like, just looking at the previews for next week, it seems like it's a lot of Claire, you know, bedridden. We really don't know the extent to what happened. I don't think that it's going to be like a quick jump into, oh, she lost the baby. You know, I feel like that's not what's going to happen. But I don't know. It seems like they're not just going to throw that in right away.
Yeah.
So hopefully not. So,
it was pretty hard to tell because it was pretty much just her in the bed.
Yeah,
so,
exactly. I know that's kind of all we
it.
saw, but that could mean that a lot is going on next episode, and they couldn't really show us. So I don't know, but yeah, and usually I feel like the way the show goes, if they have one episode that's kind of more low key on all of the action, you know, that's just kind of setting the tone and kind of plotting. I feel like the very next episode is like madness. So
exactly, yeah, there were about 2 or 3 key points that happened in the episode to set up in terms of like the planting the seed of like the witchcraft, and then them being successful with their plan to steal the wine, and then Captain Jack showing up and being Captain Jack. The one thing I really did love was like when her monologue at the end where she's looking at them fight, and that she says I have to choose between Jamie and Frank, and just seeing that kind of you know, that double, the fact that Tobias Menzies is both Frank and Captain Jack. It was fun to see that for like a split second of them referencing Frank and seeing Captain Jack. And then also, well, I guess we should really talk about that fight at the end of like Captain Jack getting stuck in his little pecker.
I know. I didn't see that coming. That whole scene when she's running out, I had so much anxiety because I was thinking she was gonna yell out for them to stop, and then somebody, I thought it was gonna be Jamie, was gonna get stabbed, and it was just gonna be this big scene. And as soon as she ran out and they were already dueling, I'm like, oh my gosh, Claire, just stay quiet, you know, because and she ended up admitting that, saying there's nothing she could do now because she would cause more of a problem, you know, speaking out. But it's like, you know, she's already, I know why she rushed out there. She was trying to stop him. But she's got to think about herself too. You know, she was just laying in bed a few hours ago because she was bleeding, you know, being pregnant and doing too much. And now she's running through the woods and all this stress that's happening. It's like, I know why she did it, but it gave me so much anxiety, you know? I'm like, you just need to chill. Like,
you gotta rest. It's just too much with the plotting and then the...
Yeah.
And then what if Jamie thinks it's his fault because they had sex the night before and he was afraid that the baby, you know, and so there's just so much.
And she did make a point. He did say something about, you know, is it okay? And she said, yeah, you know, everything's fine. So maybe they were setting up. I mean, I don't know. It's like
I highly doubt that the sex did it.
Right. But maybe they're setting up for Jamie to feel even like more guilty. You know? I don't know. But yeah, that was an interesting scene and at the very end, and I did not expect for Captain Jack to be stabbed where he got stabbed, but I thought it was very appropriate, and I was glad that it happened. But then it puts all these other thoughts into my head, like, well, wait a second, he's supposed to have a child with Mary Hawkins that's supposed to have the line for Frank to be born, so obviously he's not like him. Completely out of commission, or it's not him and somebody, I mean, I don't know now, and I wonder if Claire's gonna think about that too. Like, she was trying to get him to stay alive so Frank could be born. But if he's, you know, not able to have kids anymore, then where is that line, you know, or what happened there? So there's so many, it's all up in the air. I don't have the answers at this point, but
I honestly, I've never thought that Captain Jack was Frank's direct lineage. Once they introduced Alex, I was like, oh. Yeah, it's Alex. It's not Frank. Whatever happens in between to make it appear that Frank was part of the lineage, I think, yes, Mary Hawkins will probably marry Frank, but I don't think he's the father.
They're gonna have kids.
Yeah.
The only reason I thought that it was for sure a direct line is, and of course it's the show and it's the same actor, but just the fact that they are identical, you know, so that's why I thought it kind of creates more of like okay, this is the same line. I mean, these guys are doppelgangers. They're pretty much the exact, you know, so that's where my mind was going. And I thought there's no way that can happen. But I don't know. This show, I feel like, is constantly keeping you on your toes. And just when you think you have it all figured out, it's something completely different. So
and that's a possible thing as well, that, you know, the brother of somebody could have children that if it's just genetics and they still have the same genes, you know, then down the line there could be somebody that looks like, you look like my uncle from way back when or something. So that's a possibility.
Right.
But with that said, it's a little bit of a quick show tonight. Do you want to go ahead into predictions?
Sure, yes.
And now, your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
All right. Well, my predictions, we didn't see much for next episode, so I don't have a whole lot to go off of. But I think that Jamie's going to get out of jail pretty quickly, like he did last time, because as they mentioned, they have friends in high places or whatever that was. So I think the prince is going to get him out, or Duvernay, or somebody's going to come to his rescue again. And I think it's going to be while he's in jail and he's not able to talk to Claire. I think there's going to be a lot of hard feelings because she obviously doesn't know yet about Fergus or what happened, but then once he comes out, I think there's going to be some sort of reconciliation, but I think Captain Jack is somehow going to get in his ear for something else. I think there's going to be some sort of little bug that's put in, and it's going to cause a whole nother rift on top of what's going on. So cool. I don't know, that's all I can really see from what they gave us. But
I think that they're going to leave Jamie in jail for a little bit longer than we anticipate. Like, he won't be out by next episode. I think that Claire will be bedridden in the hospital, and Captain Jack will be brought to the same hospital.
Ooh, that's a good one.
And so that might be something that they kind of toy around with, of the whole idea of like maybe him taunting her in some way. I don't know. He looked pretty like bad, and I think they're going to kind of play with that for the next episode. And I think once Jamie's able to get to her, they can probably have some type of resolution. But I have a feeling that she might lose the baby like in that time, and then so that's going to be a whole other thing to overcome as well. So that's kind of what I'm thinking, at least for the next episode.
Right. Yeah. Interesting. I'm excited to see. I think it's gonna take a turn from whatever's been going on. So it should be good.
Well, I think that about does it for this week of the Outlander After Show. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. As always, you can follow us on Instagram. Well, my bad. You can subscribe on iTunes, watch us on YouTube, and please rate. We'd love to hear what you think of the show and how you think we're doing. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Miss Adrian Snow. And where can they follow you?
You can follow me on Twitter at MLEBeth, and on Instagram at OMG, it's MLE.
All right. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we will see you in actually a few days.
Bye.
Bye.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.